Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign. If you haven't already done so, please make sure the volume of this podcast is set perfectly to your listening enjoyment. Please take your seat, whether that's on the treadmill, car, sofa, or bed, and buckle in for the last trip. My name is Jamie Beebe, and I'll be your tour guide, recreating someone's last days in paradise. On behalf of myself and everyone behind the scenes, please enjoy the Last Trip podcast. And because nobody likes a long flight to get to where they want to be, let's prepare for takeoff. Alex Gumm was living with his parents in Maine when he took a vow of silence, started a plant-based diet, began to research different religions, conspiracy theories, and the possibility of aliens inhabiting the Earth. Finally, breaking his silence, he told his parents he was going to Hawaii to find enlightenment. The next day, he shaved his head and his parents dropped him off at a bus station. He was 25 years old when he arrived on Kauai, February 22, 2018, and vanished 2 days later. With no clues, there are a lot of theories in this case, with many of his friends and family believing he's still alive and living off-grid in the vast wilderness of the island. What happened to Alex Gumm? The Hawaiian island of Kauai is often referred to as the Garden Isle, and it's the fourth largest and oldest of the Hawaiian Islands. It's about 552 square miles and located northwest of Oahu. The island is known for its lush tropical landscapes, including rainforests, mountains, and waterfalls. There are dramatic cliffs and deep valleys throughout. The Nepali coast is one of the most stunning coastlines in the world. It stretches about 17 miles along the northwest shore and has steep emerald green cliffs that rise up 4,000 feet above the Pacific Ocean. Along those cliffs are narrow valleys, waterfalls, sea caves, and secluded beaches. Because the terrain is so rugged, it's largely inaccessible by road and can only be reached by hiking, boat, or helicopter tours. You can take the Kalalau Trail, which is a challenging 11-mile hiking trail from Kihei Beach to Kalalau Beach. The views are breathtaking, but it's known to be extremely difficult and requires a permit for overnight camping. There are various companies that offer boat tours, including catamarans and zodiacs, which provide access to sea caves, waterfalls, and amazing snorkeling spots. Sea kayaking along the Nepali coast is a popular activity and is typically available during the summer months when the ocean conditions are calmest. And there are many myths and legends surrounding the coast. But overall, it's believed to be a place where the physical and spiritual worlds are closely connected. Waimea Canyon is another major attraction on the island. It's often referred to as the Grand Canyon of the Pacific and is a stunning natural wonder. It's about 14 miles long, 1 mile wide, and up to 3,600 feet deep. It was formed by the erosion of the Waimea River, which cut through over millions of years, and was also influenced by volcanic activity and the collapse of a portion of the island. People go there to see the striking natural colors, including deep reds, browns, greens, and the occasional streaks of purple and blue. In fact, the name Waimea means reddish water in Hawaiian, referencing the canyon's red soil and the river that runs through it. The colors are due to the different layers of volcanic rock and soil and vegetation. But there are several legends on how the name came about. The first is a story of a great battle between two Hawaiian chiefs whose blood spilled into the Waimea River, turning the waters red. The blood is said to have stained the river and the canyon, giving it its name. Another legend suggests that the red soil and waters are the result of the tears of the gods who mourned the loss of the land's lush greenery and beauty due to volcanic activities. The Walua River is another popular tourist attraction, being the only navigable river in Hawaii. Many people kayak along it, and there are numerous boat tours that lead to attractions like the Fern Grotto, Wailua Falls, Secret Falls, and several ancient Hawaiian temples. The Fern Grotto is one of the most famous attractions along the river. It's a natural lava rock cave covered with hanging ferns, only accessible by boat. And it's a popular site for weddings and events due to the natural beauty and the acoustics. Wailua Falls is a stunning 80-foot waterfall located a short distance from the river and is one of the few attractions accessible by car. Secret Falls, actually named Uluwaihi Falls, is more of a hidden gem that can be reached by a combination of kayaking and hiking. And there are several temples along the river. One is Poliahu Heiau, and it's believed to have been dedicated to Poliahu, the Hawaiian goddess of snow. The remains include stone platforms and terraces, which were used for various rituals and offerings. Holoholokuhe'o is one of the oldest temples on Kauai and was once used for sacrificial ceremonies. Adjacent to that is the birthing stone, where Hawaiian royalty gave birth. It's a large rock with a smooth, indented surface, and they birthed there to ensure the sacredness and legitimacy of their offspring. And there are several others that all offer a glimpse into the rich spiritual and cultural heritage of Kauai, reflecting the deep connection between the land, the people, and their gods. So much of the island is a vast wilderness. Only about 10% of Kauai is accessible by car. Many world travelers and nomads consider it to be the ultimate counterculture fantasy land, a place where anyone could sign off from their former lives and go undiscovered. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, Kauai police had commented on an increasing trend of people moving to the island to be voluntarily homeless. The climate is temperate, and there are plenty of farms where hard work can be traded for food and shelter. Beach parks offer free outdoor showers. Hitchhiking is generally acceptable. You can hunt, fish, or gather for a meal and cook it on the beach over a driftwood fire. It's one of the few places that people can still live off the land. There's fish in the sea, animals to hunt, and berries on the mountains. There's a way to survive without having a job or cash if you're resourceful enough to know how to do it. This phenomenon of drifters inhabiting the island is not new. A band of young people from the mainland famously accumulated on a stretch of the coast on the island's rugged shore in 1969 to create the hippie haven known as Taylor Camp. It was founded by Howard Taylor, Elizabeth Taylor's brother. He offered his land on the north shore of Kauai to a group of young hippies who had been evicted from their previous residence. They built tree houses and makeshift shelters from available materials and created a unique, eco-friendly living environment. And they were very self-sufficient and isolated, living largely free from outside influence. Nudity was common, and they embraced a lifestyle centered on peace, love, and communal living. The treehouse community was condemned and dismantled by the state in 1977, but the island's reputation as a hideout for counterculture holdouts still exists. And there's no shortage of alternative living communities on Kauai and throughout the Hawaiian Islands. An old hippie colony on Maui still serves as a gathering place for nudist beach parties. Even urban Oahu, with its dense population and skyscrapers, draws people who are seeking to retreat from the social order. And these communities don't lack in legends, myths, conspiracy theories, and imagination. In New Age mythology, Kauai is described as the site of Lemuria, a mythical lost continent. The concept of Lemuria has captivated the imaginations of many, including Alex Gumm. The term Lemuria first emerged in 1864 by a British zoologist to explain the presence of lemur fossils in Madagascar and India, but not in Africa or the Middle East. He proposed that a land bridge or a lost continent might have existed, allowing lemurs to migrate across the regions. But in the New Age movement, Lemuria is associated with mystical wisdom and advanced spiritual knowledge. Some people claim to have memories of past lives in Lemuria, or they're able to channel messages from Lemurian beings. And many, like Alex, believe that Lemuria is an ancient continent inhabited by aliens from the Pleiades star system. Cults and spiritual seekers have long made the pilgrimage to the island, believing that they could find this esoteric Eden. And ancient Hawaiians, along with the Dalai Lama, consider Kauai a place where souls enter and leave the earth plane. a major portal and energy vortex for spiritual energy on Earth. Some regard it as the third eye chakra of the planet. Beyond the possibility of aliens, vortexes, and hippies, the wilderness also has a history of hiding outlaws. There have been more than a few multi-day manhunts through the jungle searching for fugitives. While there are many legends and myths surrounding the island, at the end of the day, the sheer natural beauty is what draws me there, and I can't wait to visit. Let's get to know Alex Gumm and what drew him to the island of Kauai, where he quickly vanished without a clue.
The Murder Diaries is a victim-focused true crime podcast.
Hosted by me, Paige.
And me, Natalie. On The Murder Diaries, we use straightforward storytelling to spotlight cold cases, missing persons, and suspicious deaths.
We often work with victims, friends, and families and use monthly interviews that include original audio. Our monthly interviews include topics surrounding the true crime genre as a whole.
Connect with us at themurderdiariespodcast.com or on socials at The Murder Diaries Pod.
And be sure to give us a listen on Spotify.
Bye.
Alexander Gumm was born on June 27, 1993, in Connecticut, where his mom, Sally McLaren, grew up, and his dad, Ben Gumm, was a longtime publisher of the Trumbull Times and other weekly newspapers. The family moved to New Hampshire in 1998 and ran a bed and breakfast there, until moving again in 2004 to North Berwick, Maine, where they ran another bed and breakfast. As a kid, Alex was outgoing and very artistic, always drawing and doodling. His focus was graffiti art, and he would spend a lot of time looking at graffiti books to perfect what he wanted to do. His parents supported the arts and even let him paint murals and graffiti in the basement of their home. His next major focus was skateboarding, and that's when he met a close group of friends, the same friends that would later search Hawaii for him. His friends said he had no fear, and although he was the youngest, he always tried the hardest out of the group to succeed, whether it was skateboarding, art, or making music. They said he could sometimes act immature, but had an old soul. And when his friend group graduated from high school, Alex was only a freshman and quickly lost interest in going. So he dropped out and didn't graduate with his class, but got his GED instead. After skateboarding, he turned his attention to music. He played the piano, guitar, and drums, and would write songs. Alex was described as a guitarist with a radical spiritual practice. He was kind, creative, and loyal. He gravitated toward folk music and wrote hundreds of songs, recording his own music and playing all the instruments himself. He soon traveled around locally playing shows with various bands. His friend Shane McKenzie grew up with Alex along the East Coast, and they bonded over the skateboarding, the guitar, and the conspiracy theories. When Alex was just 22 years old, Shane moved to LA to develop his music career, and Alex followed him in pursuit of his own big break. They designed their lives around creating and performing music. He worked as a food delivery driver, but spent the rest of his time making music under the name Albert Johnson. Shane said Alex was something of a wizard on guitar, and Alex saw musical success as something that wasn't so out of reach, especially because Shane's mom was Dale Bozio, the lead singer of the 1980s new wave band Missing Persons. But Alex didn't play music looking for fame. He wanted to achieve musical excellence and create brand new sounds. His style on guitar evolved from folky rock and roll to something more ambient and spiritual as his behavior started to grow increasingly erratic while living in Los Angeles. He even started sleeping in the frame of Shane's bedroom door rather than a bed. He recorded his solo work only on a full moon. And he told some of his friends that he believed he was a descendant of the race of extraterrestrials that inhabited the mythical Lemuria. His behavior became more and more bizarre, and he took both weed and mushrooms, often causing him to be even more erratic, fearless, and immature. While living in LA, Alex put out multiple full-length albums, and he played a lot of shows. But one night, he stepped off stage looking defeated. He told Shane they didn't come. But guys, he wasn't talking about his fans. He was talking about the aliens. He thought he was going to ascend into another universe during his performance. And after that night, he stopped playing his guitar. He adopted a strict plant-based diet, he pulled away from his relationships, and began to spend more and more time alone. His friend Shane later said he watched Alex disappear right in front of his eyes. In 2015, Alex began studying his own mix of spirituality, which included Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity. He took a trip to Sedona, Arizona, and also went to India as part of a spiritual journey, spending a total of 6 weeks there. In 2017, after losing his job, his girlfriend, and leaving his band, Alex returned to Maine to live in the historic Victorian manor his parents owned and operated, known as the Angel of the Berwicks Bed and Breakfast in North Berwick. He kept to his own small wing of the house, meditating and studying philosophy and world religion. He stopped using his bed and chose to sleep on the floor. He lived his life very isolated, not even eating dinner or talking to his parents after he took a vow of silence. He believed that if he became spiritual enough, he could ascend into the afterlife without having to go through the pain of sickness and dying. He was obsessed with conspiracy theories and constantly watched the TV show Ancient Aliens, formulating his own ideas about the world and what spirituality meant to him. His mom felt like she understood what he was going through because she felt a similar dissatisfaction with the status quo in her own youth and craved something more meaningful. So she tried to help him and gave him literature about a Buddhist monastery in a forest not far from Boston. But his father was openly disappointed. He couldn't come to terms with his son's aversion to things he hoped they could bond over, like Christianity and football. On February 20th, 2018, Alex told his parents he had plans to leave when he broke his vow of silence, only to say he wouldn't be around anymore to help tidy up the guest rooms. He planned to move to Kauai in order to seek enlightenment and join the aliens he thought he was part of. The next day, Alex shaved his head in preparation for his magical journey. On February 22nd, 2018, Alex's parents dropped him off at the bus station in Dover, New Hampshire. His mom tried to take a photo of him as he was leaving, but he blocked his face with his hands. She asked him to call when he arrived at his destination, but he never did. He never even said goodbye or hugged his parents because of the vow of silence he took. So he simply walked away from them and got on the bus without looking back. He took the bus to Logan Airport in Boston, Massachusetts, and with only a backpack, he flew to the island of Kauai. He landed at Lihu Airport that same day on his solitary spiritual quest for something he felt he couldn't find anywhere else. He spent the first night on the island at the Kauai Beach Hostel in the town of Kapaa. It's located right on the beach, near many places to eat, and easily accessible to transportation. That night, Alex slept in an open-air lanai, which is like an open-sided patio or porch, overlooking the ocean. And the weather at night is humid but cool and perfect for sleeping outside. In the morning, he called for a taxi, but the taxi company has no record of ever picking him up. Cell phone records show that Alex contacted 2 cab companies during his stay at the hostel, but neither company has any record of picking him up. His last known call from his cell phone was placed to a taxi company while at the Kauai Beach Hostel on February 24th, 2018. And after that, he simply vanished. When he didn't call his parents after arriving on the island, they checked his bank accounts, as they often did, to keep tabs on him. They saw he stayed at the hostel for the nights of February 22nd and February 23rd, but then he never used his bank account again. He had saved up around $8,000, but it has never been touched. Alex's mom called the hostel and asked about him when he hadn't contacted them or used the money from his bank. But the hostel only told them he had stayed there and didn't have any other information about his whereabouts. They said he was quiet and introverted and kept to himself before leaving after his 2-day stay. And from there, his official trail went dead. His parents filed a missing persons report soon after and began trying to find him just to make sure he was okay. They didn't want to fully sound the alarms because they knew he was looking for his personal solitary enlightenment and were afraid they'd push him further away if they made a big fuss. They called several monasteries on the island because they knew he was interested in them. One told her that Alex was not there, and it often takes up to 10 years to be accepted inside. They reached out to another one, but never heard back. And there are about 10 monasteries on the island. His family then hired private investigator Brian Fujiuchi, who is a former Kauai police chief, to find Alex. He told them there is not much the police can do when an adult elects to detach from his former life. And with no signs of foul play, Alex's withdrawal from society seemed to reflect a lifestyle decision. Also, if police were to locate Alex, they could do little more than assess his well-being and implore him to contact his parents to let them know he's alive. It's like being voluntarily lost. If you don't put up red flags, and you're not going around burning things down, burglarizing places, or committing crimes, you could blend in and live in Hawaii for years without ever being noticed. Somebody could literally go out to any remote valley, set up camp, and live there for a long time without anybody even knowing it. In the years since Alex went missing, there have not been any official sightings of him, but there have been some credible ones. The most promising was from a woman who said she encountered a young man at a homeless camp at Salt Pond Beach Park in March or April of 2018. She offered him a bowl of seafood chowder that she brought to the campsite for anyone who might be hungry, but he politely declined the soup, citing his plant-based diet. The man had an arm tattoo that matched the description of the Kundalini symbol inked in blue on his left forearm, just like Alex. And that tattoo in that color is not very common. He was also reading religious text, possibly the Bible, which Alex was known to do. In August of 2018, there was another possible sighting near a state park on the western shore of the island. The witness was a young woman who said that the man looked hungry, tired, and disheveled. She saw him a second time that same day, and this time he was with a woman, and both of them looked intoxicated. But the sightings of him stopped in midsummer of 2018, leading some people to believe that he retreated to a more isolated pocket of the island, like the Kalalau Valley, or perhaps he left the island altogether. Because even though there's an active missing persons case on him, he could still easily travel without flagging any authorities, because he's an adult who's not considered to be dangerous or in danger and not suspected of any crimes. So technically, he has every right to fall out of society. His parents never went to Hawaii to look for him because they believed that chasing him down would only harm the relationship with him. And they were not in good enough health for such a daunting endeavor. But they gave interview after interview to news reporters to raise awareness of his disappearance in hopes of finding him. Then, in the spring of 2019, the Kauai Habitat for Humanity Restore, a home improvement store and donation center in Hanapepe, said he bought some gear with a male friend, and they were talking about heading to the Kalalau Valley because it had just reopened after hurricane floods had damaged it over a year before. This made sense, because in the entire time Alex was there, he wouldn't have been able to go until then. Hearing this gave new hope to his family, and it also pushed his group of childhood friends to get involved. They reached out to his parents to let them know they wanted to increase the search efforts for their friend. They were able to hack into the computer he left behind and said his last Google searches indicated he was researching how to forage wild plants, find drinking water, and essentially how to live in the jungles of the island alone. This led them to think he went to Kauai to withdraw from society and live a solitary life off-grid. But it didn't stop them from continuing their search. They started buying Facebook ads, asking people on Kauai for tips, but hit dead end after dead end. In November of 2019, when they felt they had exhausted all the leads, 5 of his friends, Ian Davis, Alec Lemon, Shane McKenzie, and brothers Hunter and Spencer McLeod, traveled to Kauai to search for Alex. They thought they'd find him playing guitar on a beach somewhere within the first couple of days. They'd take him to dinner and convince him to return to his former life. After that, there'd be time for surf lessons in Honolulu Bay before they all head to the airport and bid goodbye to the island. But when they arrived, they realized they were totally unprepared to scour a remote island for signs of Alex. Over 7 days in November, they explored homeless camps, thrift stores, food pantries, monasteries, skate parks, and remote beaches. They met a disoriented homeless woman who said Alex pitched his tent next to hers for a while. And there was a soft-spoken bohemian guy who claimed to have witnessed Alex's guitar playing. These tips solidified to the group that Alex had indeed been on Kauai and might still be there. But no one they met had seen him for several months, so they followed half a dozen older but credible leads, although none amounted to much. They also saw firsthand just how remote and dangerous the island was, making them question if Alex could survive on his own out there. By their last day, they had passed through every town on Kauai, but were never able to make their way into the jungle and jagged mountains that occupied most of the island. It was just too much to search. They came home with a new understanding of the island, but without Alex, each one hoping that he was still out there and would eventually return. Because there are so few clues in this case, there are a lot of theories. Alex had called for a taxi 2 days in a row, but there is no record of him taking a ride. He could have decided to walk to wherever his destination was, or went out exploring and got lost or injured while in the rugged terrain. The natural environment is challenging, and many accidents can happen, like falling or getting swept away by water currents. He could have gotten lost and just succumbed to the elements. And with so much undeveloped land, searchers may never locate his remains. So it's entirely possible there was a fatal accident. Along those lines, the jungles can hold more than just dangerous elements of nature, and Alex could have met with foul play. Perhaps he was hitchhiking, or sleeping outside, or just walking around, and met with someone who wanted to intentionally harm him. It could have been a crime of opportunity, an argument, or a robbery. There are any number of ways Alex could have met with foul play. Drowning is a leading cause of death on all of Hawaii's islands. He could have gone out for a swim and something happened in the strong currents, huge waves, or unpredictable tides, and he was swept away. Or he could have fallen into the ocean from one of the many cliffs. Suicide is a possibility in this case. While some people move to Hawaii to escape the modern world and live a simple life off-grid, many travel there seeking a final destination spot to end their lives. It's known as suicide tourism when people travel far from their homes to end their lives in well-known places. In fact, suicides are the second leading cause of non-resident death in Hawaii after drowning. With Alex's beliefs in Kauai possibly being Lemuria, and believing that he may be able to ascend with the aliens, the possibility of suicide seems higher up on my list than some other theories. Many people believe Alex disappeared voluntarily and chose to walk away from his life. He could be living in one of the many monasteries on the island, or joined an alternative living commune, or even a cult. There are so many groups he could be living with off-grid that it would be almost impossible to find him if he doesn't want to be found. For what it's worth, I'd like to believe Alex is still living somewhere on the island off-grid and enjoying his life. And out of almost all the cases I've covered, I think Alex has the most likely possibility of this.
Hey there, true crime aficionados. Looking for a podcast that's as twisted as it is hilarious?
Well, you've stumbled upon the perfect place. Welcome to Luminol On The Wall, or as we like to call it, Lotwa. I'm Becky, the sunshine to your day.
And I'm Bevy, the moonlight to your darkness. Together, we're the sisters you never knew you needed, bringing you true crime like you've never heard before.
Picture this. 2 sisters, complete opposites.
Yeah, she's all sunshine and kindness, while I'm the queen of sarcasm and sass.
But that's what makes our sister chat so relatable. We're like the sun and the moon, lighting up your true crime journey with laughter and irreverence.
That's right. We dive into the darkest corners of humanity, but we don't just stop at the gore and the controversies. Oh no. We're here to roast the characters each other, and sometimes even ourselves.
We laugh hysterically at our own jokes.
And we swear like sailors while we're at it, so if you're easily offended, consider this your warning.
But if you're ready for a wild ride through the twisted minds of murderers, join us on Lotwa. We'll cope with the horrific nature of our content the only way that we know how. That is with a healthy, or maybe excessive dose of sarcasm, wit, and a touch of crass humor.
So what are you waiting for? Hit that follow button and join our sisterhood as we navigate the murky waters of true crime together. We promise you won't regret it.
Should you travel to Kauai? Absolutely. It's a gorgeous natural place that many people travel to safely. The crime rate on the island is low, and most visits are trouble-free. Although, like anywhere, petty theft and crimes of opportunity can occur. But overall, the local community is known for being friendly and welcoming to tourists. While you're there, be aware that Kauai's weather can be unpredictable, especially in the wet season from November to March. Sudden rain showers and flash floods can occur, particularly in mountainous areas. So if you're hiking or in the jungle, always check the weather forecasts and heed any warnings. The beaches on the island are beautiful but can be dangerous. Drowning is the #1 cause of death of non-residents among all the Hawaiian Islands. Strong currents, high surf, and riptides are common in Kauai, especially on the North Shore. Be sure to swim at beaches with lifeguards and pay attention to posted warning signs and flags. Kauai offers so many fantastic hiking trails, especially along the Napali coast, but the trails can be challenging and treacherous, especially after a rain. If you go out, be sure you have proper footwear, sufficient water, don't go alone, and inform someone about your plans. Be careful of sun exposure while you're visiting because the tropical sun can be intense. Use sunscreen, wear protective clothing, and stay hydrated to avoid sunburn and heat exhaustion. And if something does happen, there are medical facilities on the island, but for serious medical conditions, people might have to be transferred to Oahu. Renting a car is a must if you're going to be exploring the island or leaving the resorts. But be cautious while driving because roads can be narrow and winding. You'll often find one-lane bridges and livestock on the roads. Hawaii has its own Creole language known as Pidgin, which blends English, Hawaiian, and other languages. It's commonly spoken among locals and reflects the island's multicultural heritage. And of course, it's good to learn a few key phrases and words while you're there. Aloha is a versatile and central word that can mean hello, goodbye, or love. Mahalo means thank you. Ikomo mai means welcome. Ohana means family, extended family, or just the people you consider to be your family. And along the lines of family, calling someone auntie is a way to show respect for older women within the community. It acknowledges their wisdom, experience, and role as caregivers and mentors. It's a term of respect and affection, and used regardless of whether someone is a blood relative or not. Of course, that does not mean you should go around calling all the older women you encounter auntie while you're visiting Hawaii. And Hawaiians have a deep respect for the land. So always stay on designated trails, do not disturb wildlife, and be mindful of the natural environment. Embrace the aloha spirit by being friendly, courteous, and respectful to locals and fellow travelers. I'm sure you've seen people in the movies stepping off the plane in Hawaii and receiving a lei made of flowers, leaves, shells, or feathers. Well, it's not quite like it is in the movies. They are given as a symbol of affection, respect, or celebration. They're commonly given during greetings, farewells, birthdays, graduations, weddings, and other significant events. When given a lei, it's considered rude to refuse it or to remove it in the presence of the person who gave it to you. The biggest takeaway I want to hone in on is that all of the Hawaiian Islands are beautiful, magical places to visit, and I definitely suggest making your way there at some point. And remember, no matter where you're traveling, make sure you inform someone about your plans before going anywhere. Tell someone reliable where you're going and what you'll be doing and when to expect you back. And my number one tip to staying alive on vacation is to pay attention to your gut. If something doesn't feel right, it isn't. Alexander Gumm went missing around February 24th, 2018 on the Hawaiian island of Kauai. He was 25 years old, 5 feet 11 inches, 140 pounds, with brownish hair and brown eyes. He has 2 tattoos, one of the Kundalini staff of life on his inner left forearm. It's about 8 inches long and blue with energy spirals, and the other of the third eye, also in blue, on his right hand. Alex may have chosen to voluntarily disappear, but his friends and family just want to know that he's okay. If you have any information about the disappearance of Alex Gumm, email Ben Gumm and Sally McLaren at bgumm@bgumm@maine.rr.com. That's bgumm@maine.rr.com. Or Ian Davis at eondayvis@gmail.com. Or you can call the Kauai Police Department at 808-241-1711. His case number is 18-08308. And Alex Gumm's National Missing Persons number is MP58161. And finally, remember to leave a review and rate this podcast 5 stars if you like the show, or hell, even if you don't. But either way, feel free to let me know what you think. Please follow The Last Trip on Instagram at The Last Trip Crime Pod, and subscribe on Patreon to support the show. You'll get extra research, videos, photos, and updates, and even learn more about my personal travels. That's patreon.com/thelasttrippodcast. I'm Jamie Beebe, bringing you your last trip and signing off until the next one. Thanks for listening.